Welcome to the All Things Nintendo podcast. I'm Brian Shea from Game Informer, and this is a weekly podcast to discuss all the biggest news and games from the world of Nintendo. I am currently out on the road yet again, so we'll be skipping the news segment this week, and instead we'll be doing a single segment show. But we've got some games to talk about. First, I have played Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and I will be sharing my hands-on impressions of that game. Then we'll be getting a review of Sea of Stars, the highly anticipated retro RPG from Sabotage Studio. And then before wrapping up, we will have some brief additional thoughts on Sonic Supestars now that I have played the co-op of that game. Joining me for this episode to do all of that is Game Informer's Kyle Hilliard. Kyle, how's it going?
Good. You know, I beat Sea of Stars and I miss it.
You miss it? Okay, well that's a good...
It's one of those type of games.
That is a good teaser for the second game that we're going to be talking about, because I'm excited for that game. I have not had a chance to dive into it yet because I've just been on the road so much, even though, full disclosure, I do have a copy of it on Switch, and I do plan on jumping into it very, very soon. Maybe while I'm on the trip that I am on as people are listening to this episode, I'll be playing it. But we're going to kick things off with Nintendo's main man, Super Mario himself. I have played Super Mario Bros. Wonder. I attended an event hosted by Nintendo out in New York, and I came away very impressed by this game. You know, it's pretty easy to be jaded because, I mean, I don't know if you're like me, Kyle, but like, I enjoy the new Super Mario Bros. Games, but, and it's a big but, they all started kind of feeling vanilla. I think they're all very well designed. I think they have a lot of really fun gimmicks, fun power-ups, but it's just like, it didn't feel different from game to game. Am I alone in thinking that?
No. I totally agree. The new games, I guess that's what we should call them, the new Super Mario Brothers games, have always just been like fine for me. I mean, even the very first one on DS, like I played, and I was like, yeah, this is cool. This feels familiar in a way that I think they're going for. And then they kind of did that a few more times, and I never finished any of them past that very first one, which is which is telling that it's just like, yeah, they're okay. You know, I mean,
wait, do you like Mario even?
I will say I'm not the biggest 2D Mario guy, right? Like I was busy playing Mega Man X when most other people were playing Super Mario World. So I've always been more of a 3D Mario guy. So it's like you put the two in front of me, I'm always going to go the 3D avenue. But that's not to say I don't like 2D Mario. Not at all. I'm very excited for Wonder, and I want to hear what it was like playing it. I'm certainly not jealous.
So believe it or not, the game controls extremely well.
Nice.
And you know, this brings like kind of like a super expressive art style. We've seen it in the trailer. Very interesting power-ups, and there's just like so much of this game that is new, is like my big takeaway. And it's new and it's creative. So we'll just jump right in, basically. There is a new badge system, which I'll talk about in a minute here. There is a new kingdom that you're visiting. It's the Flower Kingdom, which brings with it a bunch of new enemies and new power-ups. And then, Kyle, you remember those flowers that like were talking to Mario in the trailer?
Yeah.
What do you think those are called?
Flowies.
Talking flowers.
Oh, okay. Undertale has a talking flower named Flowey as well as.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, they're called talking flowers. So that's maybe the least creative part of this game, because that was the thing. Like, I came away from this game thinking like this might be the most creative take on the Mario franchise since the Super Nintendo. And I mean, in terms of 2D, right? Like the 2D games, they really felt like iterations over the past decade or two. Whereas this actually feels like an evolution of the 2D franchise, even though the core gameplay is very similar to the new Super Mario Brothers franchise. But like, where it really comes into play are the Wonder Flowers, which we saw some of that in the trailer, where like, you know, Mario grabs the flower and suddenly the pipes are all coming alive, and like, or he's like really stretchy all of a sudden. So I got to see a lot of those in action. So I was really intrigued and impressed by the effects that these Wonder Flowers can have. They can really change the game, and they really give you a new challenge, I think is the best way to put it. Like, it's almost like a bonus area of the stage, but it's within the stage itself, and it's really unique in that way.
Okay.
So we'll jump into that as I talk about kind of my hands-on impressions here. But one thing I was also impressed by was this is like the largest roster of playable characters in any 2D Mario game ever. So you have Mario, Luigi, Peach, Daisy. I think there's 3 types of Yoshis and 3 types of Toads.
So are the Toads and the Yoshis, do they each play differently, or are they just like color palette changes?
So all the characters play identically except for Yoshi.
Okay.
So Mario plays exactly the same as Luigi. Luigi doesn't like jump higher or anything like that. Peach doesn't have her like floaty thing. But the Yoshis, they don't take damage. Like they can get hit over and over again. They don't take
Oh.
damage. And there is, but they're not able to get any power ups, right?
Okay.
So Mario, Luigi, Peach, Daisy, Toad, they can all get power ups, but Yoshi cannot. And then also, if you're playing co-op, you can ride Yoshi, which as Nintendo was quick to point out, it's kind of weird to see a Yoshi riding a Yoshi, which I did not get to see, unfortunately, because I played Yoshi when I was doing co-op. I was actually doing it with Gerard, aka the Completionist, over on YouTube. Really
Okay.
solid guy. I chose Yoshi because I just wanted to see how different he played, and yeah, he does play a little bit different. He does have his little jump that he kind of like you hold the button and he jumps a little bit higher, and he can eat enemies, obviously. So that is the other thing.
Is he like easier? Is that kind of like he's the
Yeah,
easiest to play as? Is he the Funky Kong of Mario Brothers Wonder?
yes, but not as easy, right? Because he can
Okay.
still die. Like if he falls in a pit, he dies, but he just doesn't take damage from enemies.
Gotcha.
But like he doesn't get power ups, so I think that also will leave some stuff on the table because as I was playing through, even in this like few levels that I played, there were some times where it's like, oh, you need a power up in order to get to this secret area. Like there's like a warp pipe that we needed this particular power up to drill underneath, and that was an intentional use, drill underneath in order to reach the warp pipe. So I think
Gotcha.
that there are like it is an easy mode in a sense, but it's also like to your detriment if you're playing as Yoshi in like certain areas.
Right. So maybe you can like get to the end of the level with with less sort of hurdles, so to speak, right? Because you're not taking damage, but like you can't get all to all the secret areas and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, that's what it
Okay.
seems like to me.
Okay. Gotcha.
So, kicking things off, I see the opening cutscene. It takes place outside of the Mushroom Kingdom. It looks like Prince Florian is the character. It's like a caterpillar guy, and it looks like he invites the Mushroom Kingdom to the Flower Kingdom for some sort of ceremony. So, like Mario, Luigi, Peach, Daisy, they're all there. And Kyle, you'll never guess what happens.
Well, actually, Peach isn't getting kidnapped, right?
Correct.
So I can't guess. I don't know what happened.
Well, the thing I was kind of leading you to was Bowser attacks.
Oh, okay, sure.
So yeah, it's kind of neat the way they do
Yeah,
it.
I
Though
feel
it's
kind of
like
stupid now in retrospect.
so like they're kind of like having like their little conversation. There's no like full sentences aside from the talking flowers, but like they're making their noises at each other, and like there's like word bubbles coming across the top, and then you see Kamek fly over the top, and then after that, Bowser comes and he steals the Wonder Flower that Prince Florian has, and it looks like it transforms Bowser into a giant airborne warship. And he just starts
weird.
Yeah, and he just starts floating over the kingdom and like transforming parts of it. Like you see like Prince Florian basically has his own version of Toad. They're called Poplins, and they have little houses, and like Bowser transforms their houses into prisons. So they're all trapped inside their houses, and it looks like each of their houses are at the end of the levels. So
Right.
like there's a flagpole, so you get the flagpole, then you retransform their house back into a house, and that allows them to exit and everything. So that is kind of the story, and as you might expect, Mario and his team is like, yeah, we'll help. So that's
Yeah,
the
we're not
premise of
busy
the game.
today. We'll do.
So yeah, it's like they instead of stealing or kidnapping Princess Peach, they steal the Wonder Flower. So it is a nice twist on that formula of like, okay, it's not the damsel in distress trope as we've seen so many times in this franchise.
Right.
So yeah, the first world is called Pipe Rock Plateau, which is where I spent most of my time in the game.
And
And
Nintendo loves starting you on plateaus lately, huh?
they do. And so the first level is called Welcome to the Flower Kingdom. And before you enter a stage, you can choose a badge to equip to your character. And I don't know if you saw the trailer where they have like these purple coins that you're collecting.
Right, yeah.
So you can use those to purchase badges. And there are two categories of badges. One is action and one is boost. So action includes stuff like that. So there were 5 unlocked for each of these categories when I was playing. So this was like a later save, but they put me back in World 1 to check out some of the earlier stages.
Mhm.
So there's parachute cap, which you jump and you press one of the buttons and it allows you to kind of glide. Like your hat turns into almost like a glider, like a hang glider, almost like Breath of the Wild.
Okay.
And so that's one
Fun,
way.
good.
There's wall climb, which allows like you can jump, and then like instead of doing a wall jump, you can actually jump straight up. So it's like you get kind of like a boosted jump off of a wall, and you can do one per time that you jump. So like you can jump, rappel upwards, but you can't just like climb a wall infinitely. It's just one jump straight up, right? And then like you have to
Okay.
ground yourself again before you get to use it again. There's dolphin kick, which I didn't get to see in person, but it was like an underwater move that you get that allows you to kind of, I think, like propel forward. And maybe it works as an attack as well. I didn't really get like a good sense of that because I didn't play any underwater levels, but it is an underwater move.
Okay.
There's floating high jump, which almost reminds me of like Luigi's specialty move in past 2D Mario games, where like he kind of gets like that flutter kick that
And
lets him go a little bit higher.
and all the characters can do all of these things?
Yeah, you have to equip
Okay.
one of them though. You can only equip
Oh, you have
one
to
badge.
pick. Oh, weird. Okay.
Yeah, and then there's crouching high jump, where you kind of like you crouch down, almost like Super Mario Brothers 2. You crouch down and it charges up, and you can jump higher.
Gotcha. Weird. Okay.
So
Almost like
these
a
are almost like
backflip, kind of in the 3D mode.
yeah, kind of comparison there, but like, I think like I can see like exact areas they pulled this from, right? Like the parachute cap almost reminds me of Peach's little like floaty thing that she did in Mario 2. The floating high jump reminds me of Luigi's jump in Mario 2 or like other recent 2D Mario games, and the crouching high jump reminds me of Mario 2's like charged jump.
Right.
So then there's also another category you can do. Those are the action category. Then there's boost category. These are more like passive abilities. There's one that like allows you to get more coins as you play. There's one that's called Auto Super Mushroom that lets you just, I guess, start with a mushroom. There's add exclamation blocks. So that just opens up new paths because there's like extra platforms for you to jump on. There's sensor that I didn't use this one, but it looks like it lets you know when there's like something secret nearby. And then there's safety bounce, where if you fall in lava or you fall in like a pit, it bounces you up one time, so like you can save yourself from it.
And you pick these like at the start of every
Yeah,
level? Is
well, I
kind
mean,
of the
you
idea?
can let it ride from like what you have. Like, say you really love the parachute cap and you think that's like your favorite. You don't have to select it. It's almost like in the new Super Mario Brothers game, like when you're playing co-op, it asks you like if you want to. It like gives you a second, and if you push a button, you can choose which character if you want to change who you're playing as, or you could just let the loading screen go when you select a level, and it'll just go straight into the level with the one you already had equipped. But yeah, you can change it at
Gotcha.
any time before a level.
Okay. That's weird. The idea that I would be changing abilities before the
Yeah,
beginning of a Mario level, you know? Because
yeah,
Mario's always been about like, yeah, you get the abilities in the level. That's how Mario works, you know?
yeah. Well,
So that's a change.
and they are giving you like, and there are certain ones that work better with certain levels. Like I said, like the dolphin kick is meant for underwater levels, and then like we had one where they were like, oh yeah, the crouching high jump is really good for this level, you should do this one for that. Like they were kind of guiding us on which ones they recommended. So it's like you're not going to have a Nintendo representative like I did when you're playing the game, so you're going to have to experiment a little, or maybe look it up online if you want to do that way, to like
What?
see which one is the best for the level you're playing.
Yeah, I wonder if like you'll be like, oh, I'm gonna go with the hat, and then like you play the level a little bit, and you're like, oh, there's like a secret there that I clearly need this other ability for. I guess I'll start the level with that, restart the level with that ability. Is that kind of what you'd have to do, you think?
That's what I'm envisioning. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't
Okay.
get a chance to play any levels 2 times through, so it might have to like, I don't know, maybe there's one, and also I was just kind of following the recommendation of the Nintendo person who was guiding me.
Yeah, I mean, you're just like they're literally there playing it for the first time. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm playing this first level, Welcome to the Flower Kingdom, very typical first level, and then I come upon the elephant power up, which we
Here we
saw in the
go.
trailer. And I was playing as Peach, so I was lucky enough to see Elephant Peach before the rest of the world. And she Mario, like they all kind of, they seem like they retain their defining characteristics. Like Mario has his hat and his mustache still. Peach remains pink, very pink. So she is a pink elephant.
Oh,
Um,
okay, that's fun.
yeah, so like there is still differentiation. It's not like, okay, now there's just a bunch, like a gray blob on my screen because we all have elephant power ups, and it's like who is who. It's like, no, Elephant Mario looks very distinct from Elephant Peach, and I like that. And so as an elephant, you have the ability to swing a tusk, so it's almost like a melee attack. But also, if you go to somewhere where water is flowing, you can swing your tusk, like your tusk will fill up with water, and you can swing it and spit out that water, and that stuns enemies. But there's also like these flower buds that you can rehydrate the flowers, and they'll blossom, and it'll usually open up and give you something secret, or like give you additional coins or something like that. So that's something you can also, like, if you carry water with you and don't like waste it, you can actually sometimes open up new paths, at least in this level that I was playing.
Hmm. Okay, interesting.
So also, like, because it's the first level, so they're kind of like giving you more power-ups than you probably need. I noticed that the inventory system from Mario World is in this. So like you have like a square off to the side, and you can store one item in there. So I had like an extra elephant power up in there. I don't know if it's an apple or what, but I stored that, and if I took a hit, I could just press a button and it would automatically pop over to me. So that's a nice thing as well.
Yeah, and familiar, which
And then like, I got the Wonder Flower, and of course like all the pipes come alive. It really does like feel chaotic when you get these Wonder Flowers. And I think the goal of the Wonder Flowers, from what I can tell, is to get the Wonder Seed. So you get the Wonder Flower, everything starts happening, and like before the effect wears off, you have to find the Wonder Seed that is hidden within the effect. And that ends up being, from what I can tell, the main collectible of the game, of trying to gather the Wonder Seeds. And it was most levels, or a lot of levels, have 2 Wonder Seeds. Some have 3. So you get 1 for completing the main exit, and I believe you have to get to the top of the flagpole to get the one on the main exit. But if a level has a secret exit, that's another time that you have to get that Wonder Seed as well. So some of them are going to require you to play multiple times.
Okay.
And you can, I would imagine you can tell how many exits are in a level based on how many Wonder Seeds are. Because there's going to be one for when you get the Wonder Flower in that level. There's going to be one for getting the main exit, and then there's going to be an additional one for each hidden
For a
exit.
secret exit.
From what I can tell, anyway.
Right.
Obviously, I only played for about 30 or 45 minutes, so I don't have a clear picture of what this game is. And it seems like they're doing a lot of new stuff. So the next level I played was called Scram Skedaddlers. And I really like a lot of the level names. And skedaddlers are just like these little, like almost like weasels that will grab stuff and run off, and you have to chase them in order to catch them. So I saw one where it's like he grabbed like one of the power-ups that I hit, and he just like started running as soon as he grabbed it. And then another time, like I was running through the level, and I saw one, and he had the Wonder Flower, so I had to run and catch him before he would get away. So yeah, that was just kind of like a standard level, but like, there's some fun stuff in there, and like the Wonder Flower made it so like it was just kind of like the pipes were kind of like moving again. But yeah, it's like every single one seems like it's different in terms of like what the Wonder Flowers do. And this is also around the time that I learned about another mode that there is in this game where you can turn this on or off. There is a persistent online way to play this game. And the way that works is you go into a level and you can see shadows of other players who are playing the level right now. And I believe you can also see shadows of friends who have played levels in the past. And
okay,
so
like
you're going through
trials.
they don't affect your world at all.
Yeah.
and but you can leave they can leave cardboard cutouts on the stage, or you can leave cardboard cutouts on the stage. And if you're in this persistent level, you can leave one per stage, right? So you press down and a button, and that like plants a cardboard cutout. And you can actually buy additional cardboard cutouts using those purple coins as well, to like get unique cardboard cutouts, like just a cosmetic, it seems.
Is it almost like a tag? Is that
Yeah,
kind of
so
what
it
you're
can
doing?
act as an
Okay.
I was here type of
Right.
situation, or like if you reach like a secret level, you can like leave like, hey, I was here too, almost like in Mario Maker where you could leave like little like messages to people. Um, or it can act as a revive point for other players. So if you put it like right before a really difficult part, if they touch your cardboard cutout, it activates it almost like a kind of a checkpoint, but not really, because they can choose if they want to revive there. And like say like there's like a really difficult part, I leave a cardboard cutout right before there. They touch my cardboard cutout, then they go forward and die. They can choose to reactivate that revive point, and they can start back up from that point.
See, I like that. There's this sort of trend now. I almost kind of point to Death Stranding as like maybe a starting point of like sort of multiplayer interactivity that is like uh, only positive. Does that make sense? Like you
Mm-hmm.
can't really like in Death Stranding, you can only help other people. That's your only way to sort of interact with other players in the game. And I feel like that's sort of the vibe I'm getting from this, right? Like you can't really use it to troll another player. Maybe there is some way to do it, but like it's there purely to help other people. And I like that. I think that's a good way to approach that kind of thing. And I think it sounds cool.
I agree. So the level I played with this was Bull Rush coming through, and these Bull Rushes are another enemy type where they're like, we saw them in the trailer where like it was like a stampede happening, if you remember that sequence.
Yeah, yeah.
And basically like they charge at you, and you can't defeat them, at least not that I could figure out, but you just have to like lure them into opening areas for you. So like I was like, oh, there's a thing down here. How do I break these bricks? And the answer is like you have to go forward a little bit and then lure the bull rush to come back towards you, and then jump out of the way, and it would plow through that. And then like it would allow you to access that area, and that you could either access like additional purple coins or like a pipe or something like that to let them open up those things. And same thing for like I think the wonder flower was hidden behind it. Maybe I'm wrong there.
Mhm.
But like there was like a ramp that I had to lure the bull rush to like run up and like jump over and like knock it out so I could do that. And then as soon as I got the wonder flower there, the entire stage turned into a bull rush stampede, and I had to ride on the bull rushes through the level. And then like you saw it in the trailer where they destroyed the normal flagpole, and then they kept running past the stage, and like it's just basically like a roller coaster at that point where I'm just along for the ride. And then at the end I had to jump off and get the flagpole, like the secret exit, and that was how I got that other wonder seed.
Okay.
um so that was like a fun secret ending, because you actually, they destroy the main flagpole, which is not something you typically see. I mean, every once in a while they play with the idea of the flagpole, which is always fun. Like when they do that one stage in Super Mario 3D World where like the flagpole was like running away from you.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so like I like when they do stuff like that. I think that's a fun way to do that. And then uh, another way you can play online is friend online play. And I thought this was just going to be like co-op, because that's what they did with Mario 3D World when they brought that from Wii U to Switch. But no, it is. It seems like it's exclusively competitive,
Oh,
and
weird.
it's up to
Okay.
4 players maximum, and there are challenges that you can do. So I did the wall climb jump badge challenge. That's a little bit of a mouthful there, now that I'm actually like saying it out loud. Um, and what this is you both have the wall climb jump equipped, which if you remember, that is like you can jump into a wall. Instead of jumping off of it, you can jump upwards. And basically you see the other players' shadows, but they don't affect your world at all. They can't interact with you, so they can't like grief you or anything like that. If they defeat an enemy in theirs, there's no crossover in your world.
Mm.
And the basically this was just a vertical stage. You have to get to the top as fast as possible. So we played that, and it was me against somebody else in the room. And it's meant to be online, but we were the only people in the world that were playing, so it had to be somebody
Right.
else in
Right.
the room. But yeah, and you just got that, and that was just a fun little way to compete. But you can also turn any course in the game into a friend race. So that's another way you can play online with friends. I'm sure there's other ways, but like, yeah, the badge challenges seem like they're very designed with the particular badge that you're using in mind. So that seems like a fun way to do that. And there's also, as you might imagine, as I've already talked about, single system co-op multiplayer where it's up to 4 players, no interactions between characters this time. So like if you're playing co-op, you're not going to be worried about like bouncing off of the other characters or like accidentally throwing them into lava or whatever like that. The
Yeah, so
only
you can't lift up another player.
correct.
So you can ride Yoshi, but there's no like Peach can't pick up Mario or anything like that.
Yes, that is
Okay,
correct.
gotcha.
But yeah, Yoshi is the only one that can interact with other characters in the co-op. So that was really fun. And there's no interactions, like I said, up to 4 players, and the inventory system that I mentioned earlier actually scales. So if you if you have 3 players like we did at the time, there were 3 inventory boxes. Even though I was playing as Yoshi, I could still gather stuff that would go in the inventory that my teammates could use, which was helpful. And then, by the way, Yoshi's face when you eat something, very strange in this one. He almost looks like he ate something sour, which I guess, like,
Okay.
I mean, what does a Goomba taste like anyway? So
Yeah, it can't be good,
I,
right?
I think I actually asked Tezuka what Yoshi's. I need to look this up. Hold on. Uh,
I can hear Brian typing
you're hearing. Here we go.
furiously to find out if he's asked what something tastes like.
I did. I asked him what, because I remember in Yoshi's Woolly World there were fire and ice melons, and Tezuka said, "I personally like watermelon. I haven't ever pictured a hot or spicy watermelon before fire watermelons, but I can imagine it tastes really good." And then I asked him, "How does a shy guy that is made of yarn taste different from a regular shy guy?" And he said he takes them in his mouth and he creates a yarn ball out of them. So I don't think he's really thinking about the flavor in that moment. So
Okay.
I guess he doesn't really care what they taste like. But yeah, so shy guys
I
probably
love
do have a
those
flavor.
responses when we ask those questions, like about like what things taste like, and especially Japanese developers are like, I don't know, like why do you care? Like,
Well, what I really the best reaction I got was when I asked the creator of Splatoon like physics questions on like how like they are like sinking beneath the surface of like the ink.
right.
And he's like, are they swimming like like some like realm beneath the sidewalks, or are they like stretching to like become one with the ink? Like, how does that even work? And he's he's just like, wow, you're really putting it to me here. But yeah,
Fire.
last thing on the single system multiplayer is that every character actually has the same badge. So you can't like select distinct badges for all the different characters. So like one time we had like the parachute cap, another time we had like the safety bounce, where if you fell into a pit, you could bounce up one time to kind of have a free save one time. So we played one level that was like in a cave and it had a bunch of like jewels all around it. And this is where we found another new power up called the drill mushroom. And this you kind of just, yeah, you could drill down under the ground and then kind of like burrow for a little bit and then pop up. And whether you're drilling down or popping up, you will hurt any enemy that you come in contact with. But also, like in the case that I hinted at earlier, like I had to drill underneath a low wall in order to get to a warp pipe. So it's like you actually needed the power up in that case. But also there's a bunch of jewels that are like in your way, and the drill mushroom's really handy with destroying those, so you can like reach secret areas or in some cases just continue to survive. When we reached the wonder flower on this stage, it was like a giant, like almost like a thwomp type enemy, but like it was like a wider, like almost like crusher. It started like coming from the ceiling and like crashing down, and we had to kind of drill downwards as fast as we could through these different jewels. So that was kind of a fun area. There was another level called Maul Mouthful, and Maul are like these big mouthed enemies that can swallow characters and enemies and items. So like if you get a an item out of a brick or a block, and the Maw there, they will actually eat it, and you just lose that power up. But they'll also eat Goombas. Like there were Goombas walking, and they will actually come up and eat the Goomba. And it's like, oh, okay. This is where we learned about bubble flowers, which is another power up, and this allows you to kind of throw a bubble outwards, and like it can stun enemies, but you can also jump off the bubbles and reach new platforms, which is helpful. So I'm assuming that'll be helpful in like reaching like secret areas and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And then the Wonder Flower in this was cool because it turned us all into Goombas, and we had to sneak past the Maws who were trying to eat us. Like we had to like hide behind bushes and stuff like that. So it actually created a stealth sequence for us where we had to like get past the Maws. You can't jump as a Goomba, so you're just kind of like walking, and we had to reach these platforms. And then once we got to the top of these moving platforms, we could get the Wonder Seed there and turn us back into normal. So that
Gotcha.
was a cool level, very creative. I enjoyed that one a lot. And then the final stage that we played was called Bloomps of the Desert Skies. And
Of course. All right.
Bloomps are like these balloon creatures. They almost act like bullet bills, where like they come out of like these like inflation nozzles almost, and like they're like balloons, and they just spit out at you whichever direction you're going, but you jump on them and they pop. So there's ways you can use them to get to higher areas. And the Wonder Flower in this stage, it turns us all into balloons basically, and we started floating upwards. It's this big explorable area, and we floated upwards, and we could kind of reaching higher and higher, getting a bunch of purple coins and everything. But like, you know, ultimately the goal is to reach the Wonder Seed. And I think the Skedaddlers stage was another example of this, where it made stars just be everywhere, like the superstars, and that allows you to kind of like keep your timer higher for like how long you have to complete that Wonder Flower sequence. So as long as you keep collecting them, that will keep adding to the timer. And you can also pass them back and forth. So if you're running into co-op partners, when you have a star and they don't, that will trade off the star to both of you at that point.
Oh,
So
okay.
it was just like there's such creativity at play with this game, and there's so many new systems in place, and I'm really excited to play more of it. Like I really think that this is a true evolution of 2D Mario, and I'm really excited to play it. I mean, we're less than 2 months out from it at this point, so I was impressed with what I saw, and I think it's going to be a really awesome next step for the 2D Mario franchise. I'm also disappointed that we didn't get a new 3D Mario. Like Mario Odyssey is maybe my second favorite Mario game of all time behind Super Mario World, but like so I'm thrilled if we ever get like a Mario Odyssey 2, but I also am super excited for Super Mario Brothers Wonder, and that comes out October 20th. Kyle, how does all of this sound to you?
I mean, it sounds fantastic. Does it get weird? Does it
Oh,
like
it
because that's
gets
what I
weird.
want from it. Is like after that first trailer, it's like I want a weird 2D Mario.
It's
You
very
know?
weird.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
Yeah, it's very weird, very creative. I am most excited to see like what weird stuff they do with like the Wonder Flowers and like the different abilities that they give you, or the different like almost like psychedelic trips that they give you. It's like the best way to
Right.
put it. It really does feel like it's playing off that like, you know, everybody's like, oh, Mario eats mushrooms and he starts like seeing things, he thinks he's big and all this stuff. It's like, yeah, it almost plays off that like joke that people made like 30 years ago.
It also sounds like there's like new enemies and
Oh
stuff,
yeah.
which is I feel like the last 2D Mario. I mean, the last new Super Mario Brothers. I guess Wii U. Like I feel like even up to then they weren't really adding new enemies, or at least not many. So it's like it's nice to hear that they're willing to kind of do some more weird things with. Just be weird, Nintendo. Just go for it. You know.
I mean, I think so. I think that that is what they're doing. And like, you know, there are some Goombas, there are some Koopa Troopas, but like, I'd say the majority of the enemies are all new. And that's
Perfect.
really exciting, right? And a lot of the power-ups seem like they're all new. I think I encountered some fire flowers, and I think I encountered some super mushrooms, and obviously the superstar that I talked about. but a lot of the power-ups, I would say most of the power-ups that I saw anyway, were new. And that's
Mhm.
really exciting as well. So that comes out October 20th. I cannot wait to play more of this game. But Kyle, there's a game that you've been playing that I cannot wait to play any of it because from the moment I learned about this game back in 2020, I was all in. So it's Sea of Stars. You have played it to completion. You've reviewed it for us, GameInformer.com if you want to read the full review. Tell me about this game, Kyle. What's the core premise here?
The core premise, and not to be like simplify it too much or sound dismissive, is like if you like Chrono Trigger, if you have any fondness for Chrono Trigger, like you play Sea of Stars. Like Sea of Stars is like the sort of not modern evolution isn't the right phrasing, like because it's like it doesn't feel like a modern game in the right ways. Um, like it feels like an old school 16-bit RPG where it counts, and then like the more subtle ways is where it feels contemporary. Like you don't have to farm experience. The pace of the game is really good. You know, there's like it feels good to control the characters on the map. Like those kind of things feel modern and good. And like the result is just this really great throwback RPG that I just ended up really loving. Like I'm kind of a sucker for this era of RPG specifically. Like this is like that 16-bit Earthbound Chrono Trigger, and then if you kind of move over to the Game Boy Advance, you could throw in Golden Sun in there. Like
Mm-hmm.
those are some of my favorite RPGs, like period. Like not, you know what I mean? I don't mean like for that era or when I was young. I mean like I will take a Chrono Trigger over a Skyrim personally, right?
Wow.
Like that it's just like it's certainly a nostalgic thing. I just like those kinds of games. So I was kind of a mark for Sea of Stars, but like it's just so well done and well executed. Like all the sort of bullet points that you go down, it's like the visuals look great. The turn-based combat I really like because it has like timed button pressing, and it also encourages you to experiment and like try different things. Like you're not always just doing the standard attack and hoping for the best. Like you're sort of well rewarded for like using all your special abilities and all your special attacks and using all your combo attacks and stuff like that. And then I thought the story was interesting and engaging and fun. I like the characters. It all just like came together as like clearly, you know, Sabotage over there, and we spoke to them. The cover Sea of Stars was on the cover as part of our indie issue. So like I talked to them a lot about sort of the games that inspired them. And I mean, there's no question that like Chrono Trigger, specifically they said Chrono Trigger and like Super Mario RPG were the big inspirations for them.
What
And
are
like
the odds that they would put this out when Super Mario RPG is getting a remake?
I know. I kind of want to talk to them about it and just see what they think. I mean, I'm sure they're very excited, but also kind of like surprised. It's like, what? Really? That's. I mean, like I'm sure they really want to play it, and it will be interesting to have played this and then play Mario RPG later this year because I think you're gonna kind of compare them, or at least I am, because they sort of feel like similar in a way, or maybe they will. I don't know. We'll see with Super Mario RPG. Like maybe revisiting that game will make it feel very different. But I mean, like all that is to say, like Sea of Stars is just fantastic, and even to the point where like if you're not a mark like me for 16-bit era RPGs, like I think this is a great game on its own, and like is a like you could play it and enjoy it as it is, and it would also be this sort of like a history lesson of like, oh, I understand why these games were so appealing, even if I never really played Chrono Trigger, or maybe I'm younger and I just like missed that generation of RPGs. Like it's a great sort of entry point for that style of RPG. And it just like it's the kind of game I think I said as much in my review, and is like I didn't want it to end. You know, like I did everything. Like I went and like I beat the game and I wrote my review and gave it a score and everything and gave it to you to edit. And then like I picked the game back up and played it a bunch more. I probably put like another 10 hours into it or something like that.
Which is
Just like
rare for
doing
review games.
yeah, absolutely. Like usually, and even like review games you love, it's just like often you're like, okay, well, I got that done. I'm ready to move on. And I mean, there's like a bunch of really cool games on my hard drive right now, you know, but like I just was like, you know, I'm going to pick up my Steam Deck and I'm just going to keep playing Sea of Stars. And I almost got 100%. There's actually like one sort of secret at the very end that I couldn't quite figure out on my own. So I'm going to have to wait for the internet to help me out, which maybe they've figured it out by this time, because when you're listening to this, the game will have been out for like 3 or 4 days or something like that. But yeah, just like a high recommendation. Sea of Stars. Really great if you like RPGs, even better if you have an appreciation for that 16-bit era of RPGs like Chrono Trigger. Like, it really all came together in a really lovely way that I really enjoyed and didn't want it to end.
It makes me so happy that you're talking about like how you don't just have to like hit the basic attack and hope for the best, because I feel like so many turn-based RPGs turn out that way where it's like you have to you're just like, all right, I feel like I'm just pressing the A button or whatever button it is to confirm over and over again to get through this menu and just continually pull off the same attack. So that makes me happy to hear that there's a little bit more intricacy in the combat system.
Yeah, and then all the special abilities have different timing with their like timed button press rewards and stuff like that. So you're kind of always on your toes, and like, but then you still have, you know, those weaker enemies that you encounter, and especially if you go back to old areas like later in the game, like you can still rip through those very quickly. It's not like you're required to like, you know, lean on all your special attacks that like take a long time and everything like that, but it's just nice to just have this consistency of like, okay, every encounter just feels really thought out, you know, like even like the little minor ones that you just like, oh, I ran into this group of enemies while I was walking through the forest trying to solve this puzzle. Like, it all just feels like everything has been sort of considered and thought about in a way that makes it like fun and fast. It's just all really good.
That's so good to hear because it had so much potential when I first learned of this game. And you know, I liked The Messenger, which was the studio's first game, and I do think it kind of fell short once it moved into the Metroidvania style. Like it started out as a 2D action, like Ninja Gaiden style game, and then slowly turned into a Metroidvania. And I think that's when it kind of lost a lot of its steam, but it was still a good game, right?
Yeah.
This I saw and I was like, okay, I think this seems like they've kind of found their footing. And from what you're telling me, they absolutely did.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, and it does take place in the same world as the Messenger, the same
Hmm.
universe. Like I don't know, like I don't even know if it's like hundreds or thousands or millions maybe, but it takes place well before the Messenger. But it's like, it's not like something where like, oh, you need to play the Messenger before you play Sea of Stars. It's more one of those things like, if you happen to have played the Messenger and then you play Sea of Stars, you'll see some fun little like, you know, nods and stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like it's absolutely an RPG people should check out. It is available on Switch, which is something that is very appeasing to me because, or appealing to me because this is a game that I want to play when like I'm on a plane or all the travel that I'm doing. So like, yeah, this is definitely one that I'm going to be playing on my Switch. And the art style lends itself so well to that audience. Like, you know, whenever a Metroidvania comes out, I'm just like, that should absolutely be on the Switch because look at it. This
Yeah.
seems like the same way for that because so many of us played Chrono Trigger or Final Fantasy 6 is, let's be real, it's Final Fantasy 6, not Final Fantasy 3 is that's what it was originally called, right? It was,
I think we've
or
all, it's 6 now, right? We've
it
all
is
sort
6.
of like decided to call it 6. No
We
one calls it 3.
we have played that on our Super Nintendos, and we have so many of these retro 16-bit RPGs are just inextricably linked to Nintendo, and that's just how it is. And Sea of Stars seems like it's a perfect addition to that, especially since, you know, a lot of those RPGs are now on Switch as well, the classic ones. So I can't wait to get started on this game. Is there anything else we need to know about this game before we move on to the final title that we're going to be talking about?
No, it's on PS4, you know, PS5, Xbox, and PC and Switch. I played it on Steam Deck almost exclusively. Um,
You got the Switch experience essentially.
Basically, yeah. It's like, this is like playing it on Switch if it was my hand was a little more weighed down. Is basically,
If
but
somebody
yeah,
was
it's
putting weight on your hand as you were playing.
exactly, yeah. But yeah, it's great. Play it wherever you can.
Awesome. Well, that is out now as you were listening to this. And Kyle, you gave it a 9 out of 10. Very good score.
I did, yeah, big score.
All right. Well, the final game that I want to talk about briefly, because we've talked about this game quite a bit, Sonic Superstars. We intentionally split up the 2D platformers that are coming out a week or in the same week as each other,
I know they cannot avoid comparison. It's just that's just how it's going to be, you know.
especially since so many of the elements that we're going to talk about with Sonic Superstars we already talked about with Super Mario Wonder. I played a new zone. It's called Cyber Station Zone. We'll be talking about that in a bit here. But the primary thing that I got out of Sonic Superstars this time around was how the co-op works. And so this may sound familiar, but there are no interactions between the characters aside from one of them. Tails can pick characters up and fly with them. So I guess that's the only way you can really grief another character. Same way with Yoshi, where you can interact with other characters that way. And I guess you could jump off a cliff with them if you wanted to, but they could also jump off and do the traditional Yoshi thing. But no interactions between there. And similar to Super Mario Brothers Wonder, the camera will follow one particular character. So in Mario Wonder, the character who the camera is following will be denoted with a crown. In Sonic, it's just whichever character is making forward progress towards the goal, which is a good and a bad thing I found. Like, it's a good thing because that's a good rule of thumb, right? Where it's like, okay, this character is moving in the right direction, therefore the camera should follow them. But some of these levels are very much geared towards exploration, so I worry about that where it's like, because it's like if you fall behind or if you go off screen, you'll just kind of zap over to wherever the leader is. Um, Rings are not a shared resource in Sonic Superstars. So, like, if I have 50 rings and you have 0 rings, Kyle, you can still die.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I could be thriving and you could be like kind of clinging on to survival. And if you die, you do come back as long as at least one character is still alive. It can go up to 4-player co-op. So as long as one character is still alive, they will come back. The big exception there is during boss battles. So in a boss battle, if you die, you just don't come back until the end of the boss battle. And that is to prevent
Oh, okay.
players from like kind of cheesing the boss battles.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that also kind of leads to what I think will probably be some pretty uh, tense moments where it's like, all right, I'm playing 4-player co-op with my friends that are just sitting on the couch with me, and they are like cheering me on because they all died, but I'm still fighting the boss. And I think that could lead to some cool moments where it's like you're rooting for your friend to kind of overcome the odds. So I played in Cyber Station Zone, which was the only new zone that I had not already checked out in this game. And it's like a very futuristic kind of neon colored area. And there's a bunch of gimmicks in this one. So there's ones where like you run through these beams and all the characters turn like almost like voxel art. And
Oh, really?
they're
Oh, that's cool.
very pixelated versions of the characters. And then other beams, they'll turn into like voxel versions of animals, like, not anthropomorphized animals like they already are, but like actual like animals. So like in one, we've seen it in the trailer, they turn into like these squid like creatures that can swim through the level. And another one, I turned into a mouse that like you could climb up certain areas or like, just kind of explore these different areas, fit underneath like low ledges and everything. And there's another one where you go into like these pipes, and it's almost like a branching pipe network where you have to look ahead and see where the enemies were and choose the right path to make it up to the top. So that was fun. Like each stage seems to have some sort of gimmick, and this one seems like it had the most gimmicks out of all the levels that I've played. And I think this is going to be a later stage because I've already played through the first half of this game, and I saw what the next stage was called, and it was not this one. So I think this is probably at least Zone 8 or later of what Nintendo or the Nintendo Direct. Sega said that there were 12 zones. So it's 8 or later of 12. So that that seems to check out based on the stuff that they're doing with the stage. It seems like it's one of those that it's only one act. So I played through it, and then I got to the boss battle, and it's a chase with this silver robot. It's like a little tiny like guy the same size as Sonic and his friends. You just attack him. He's doing like attacks. You have to avoid him. It almost reminds me of like a Metal Sonic sequence from the earlier games. But then he clones himself, and everybody else kind of drops back, and it's like a giant version of him is chasing you, and you're running. And the clones come out one by one, and you have to stun them And then the goal is once they're stunned, you knock them back into the giant version, and that's how you damage them. So it's a pretty difficult battle from what I could tell. And, my co-op partner and I, we did beat it. So it was fun. It was intense. And it definitely did give that feeling of like, okay, everybody is dead except the one person. If they lose, we're going to have to start this boss battle over. So we're all rooting for that person. So yeah, I'm looking forward to Sonic Superstars. It's still very much on my radar, even though they announced the release date is October 17th, literally days before Super Mario Brothers Wonder and Spider-Man 2 come out. So I don't know how we're going to manage that. I mean, I guess it's to their advantage that it's coming out a few days before those games, but like, I think there's going to be a lot of people who are looking at this like, I'll just play those other two games, even though I think Sonic Superstars is going to be rad.
Yeah, it's walking into a battle for sure.
It is. It's going to be even Alan Wake 2 knew to just get out of that window. It was like, yeah, we're going to delay by 10 days because we don't want to be in that week.
Yeah, no, good call.
So, yeah, that is the episode, Kyle. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And thank you so much to everyone for listening. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, throw All Things Nintendo a 5-star review and hit that subscribe button. If you want to get any questions or comments in, you can get in touch with me at allthingsnintendo@gameinformer.com or hit me up on Twitter, Blue Sky, or Threads. One of them is sure to come out as the winner, right? Or Instagram, at Brian P. Shea. You can also join the Game Informer Community Discord, which is a perk for subscribing to our Twitch channel, even just for 1 month. Kyle, tell people something.
Yeah, social media. I'm mostly using Blue Sky. Kyle Hilliard on Blue Sky. That's where I put thoughts.
There will be thoughts online from us. So, Kyle, that's our show for this week. Thank you, everyone, again for listening. Take care. We'll see you next time.